So I want to share a little something, and then we're going to have a friend come forward. The Torah portion for this week is called Shoftim, and we're in Deuteronomy, and we've kind of made it to the border of the Promised Land, and we're getting all of the instructions, and part of the instructions about how to set up a society that is worthy of God's blessing, the one that God envisions. And there's a whole lot of discussion about leadership and about judges and about a court system. It's kind of shocking for us if we didn't really think about it, that all the way back in the Torah, there's a clear direction for creating a judicial system, one that's going to be based on fairness. And it's in this Sidra, this Torah portion, where it says two things that are really significant that I want to share with you, just to kind of set a scene a little bit. One of them is a line that is familiar to many. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Justice, justice, you should pursue. You must pursue. It's not that we hope for justice. We wish upon a star for justice. It's actually pursuing justice. The idea of this tirdof being a rodef is a chasing word. It's a going after word. So let's put that over there for a little bit. The second thing that I wanted to share with you is, it says, judges and officers shall you give yourselves in all your gates which God has given you for your tribes, and they shall judge the people with right justice. Well, the whole sentence, the whole verse makes sense, except for this for your tribes. It seems a little strange. I'll read it again. Judges and officers shall you give yourselves in all of your gates. All of the business happened in the ancient world at the gates of the city. That's where business was taking place. That's where law was taking place. In all your gates which God has given you for your tribes, and they shall judge the people with right justice. So it's a strange phrase, and one of the ways we get to understand it is through the eyes of one of our greatest commentators. His name is Rashi. Rashi is a French Jew. He lived a long, long time ago. You can't call him for questions. Rashi teaches that the Torah obligates each of the 12 tribes to have its own judges. Why? There's tribes, but we're all part of the people of Israel. Why be so distinctive? Why do we have to do that? Well, I think Rashi is recognizing that even within tribes of an entire people, those little breakdowns of tribes, they have their own needs. There's things that are going to make them different from one another, and that is valuable. That is significant. So every tribe needed to have its own judicial, its own judges, people from their house. Well, it's kind of an interesting thing to think about. Rashi's talking about a system, but there's something bigger that he's alluding to just beyond the need for judges. If we bring other layers of reading into this, if we think of a feminist reading, if we think of an LGBTQ reading to this text, we recognize that there have been lots of leaders and judges and police and clergy who have been part of acts of oppression. The people that we count on in years past have missed it. So maybe the idea, if we're really going to be open and honest about these things, maybe we can think about, it's not just the different tribes that need judges within the people of Israel, but even the people of Israel today, the children of Israel today, there are different groups, and there's different needs, and there's different ways to see the world. And we can figure out how to respond to listening to each other, but sometimes we need our own judges. Now, I don't think we need our own judges per se. I don't think we need our own rabbis. We used to. Some of the readings that we've been sharing are from a prayer book that was created from a synagogue in San Francisco that was to reach out to folks in the gay lesbian community because they weren't welcomed anyplace. So they created their own judges for that tribe, so to speak. So if we can take Rashi's idea of every tribe needs their own leadership, think less judge and more leader. Think more mentor. Think more teacher. Think about people who are going to be models and examples of living rich and amazing Jewish lives. Think about how they can model, others can model what life in a Jewish community can look like so that we can come into this tent and all come together and celebrate, including those who vote differently. This has to be the safe space. Because frankly, folks, if it's not, we should think about what we're doing here. We should wonder about that. How can we look at different tribes today, not the tribe of Judah and the tribe of Reuben, but folks with different kinds of needs, all within the community. Every tribe has people in leadership who can understand a bigger issue and who can see a bigger picture. We have in our community tonight someone who I think is a leader of another tribe, so to speak, within our community. She's going to hate that I'm saying this. But there is leadership in being an amazing teacher. So Caroline Saliman is a mentor to our students here. She's a Jewish educator in the Early Childhood Center at the Jewish Community Center. She's our co-camp director with Leah Boonin at our own little day camp. And she's a model of integrity for lots and lots and lots of people. And she's somebody really special to us. So I'm going to ask her to come share some Torah with us too. So would you please? Oh, stop, right?
I don't know you're going to say that. I don't like this. Okay, wait, I just have my little security here. Okay. Hi, good Shabbos, everyone. So it's true, it was at JCC like a weekish, a little more ago, that I happened to see Rabbi Green there, and he says, oh, I want to ask you this question. And I said, sure. And he says, would you like to come speak at Pride Shabbat? And I said, sure. And then I went home and I was like, what am I going to talk about? Really, what am I going to talk about? Something Jewish, something queerish? I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. So then I thought, okay, I'm going to start with something from my childhood that maybe some of you, maybe a lot of you, might be able to relate to. So when I was a kid, my parents taught me a lot of things. But one thing that they really stressed a lot, and we talked about a lot, was my future. And I was going to grow up and go to college. And when I graduated college, I was going to get married. And I was going to marry a nice Jewish boy. Now, not just any nice Jewish boy. He was going to be a doctor. But not just any doctor. He was going to be an orthodontist. Because an orthodontist, as I was taught as a young child, rarely, if ever, gets called out in the middle of the night. Makes a nice living. I would get to go on lots of vacations. And I would be free to, be active in my shul, and I would be free to, volunteer for important causes when my children were in school. So that didn't work out so well. It didn't work out so well. But I did go to college, and my first year of college, I came out to my parents, and they cried, and then they cried, and then they cried. And they cried because they thought that I would never have this. They thought that I would never have a synagogue that I felt like was mine. They thought that I would never have a Jewish community that I love and that I feel like loves me. And they thought that I would never have a family and I would never have children. And my now 20-year-old children that grew up here never had it, even in their reality at all, that they weren't welcome here, that they weren't part of everything here. I mean, they didn't even think that they had to think that. It wasn't even anything. They never thought that they should hide anything about their family. And for sure, I will always be so grateful for this little chunk of bubble that we have. But it wasn't always that. And we'll go back a little to 1992. Now, which in some ways seems like a really long time ago, but in other ways, it's not long ago at all. And in 1992, there was an amendment, a proposed amendment on the ballot here in Colorado to go on the state constitution, Amendment 2. And basically, Amendment 2 simply was just legalizing discrimination against the entire LGBTQ community in everything, in housing, in jobs, in public access, which means like checking out a book from the library, everything. It was horrible. It was a horrible, horrible, terrible time. And for sure, there are so many people here in this community that worked so hard and tirelessly to defeat this hateful proposition, and worked so hard, and worked with Torah in their hearts, like the Parsha this week, worked for Tzedek, worked so hard. But where were our leaders? In the entire Denver Boulder community, there was one rabbi out of the whole entire community that spoke out against Amendment 2. And it was Rabbi Foster at Temple Emmanuel in Denver. He was the only one that stood up and said Amendment 2 is wrong. Now, this is really important for people keeping score, which is probably all of you. Rabbi Bronstein was not here yet. She was not here. That's why there was one. So she was not here yet. So that was a horrible feeling, to feel like my own community. Look, the synagogue that I grew up at in Denver, that my family goes to, nothing, not a word. The synagogue I worked at here, nothing, not a word, nothing from our leadership here, nothing. It was a horrible, horrible, horrible time. So where am I? This amendment was sponsored, was promoted by this group called Colorado for Family Values, which I really never do this, I have to say. But I'm doing it tonight because it's Shabbos and I'm sort of on the bima and it's the most polite thing I can do. So Colorado for Family Values. And another one of their big supporters was the CU football coach. Now, this was the only, word, like that I remember this, but I remember this. In the Daily Camera, it was like one of those times when like they needed a news story, I guess. So there was a story about a local Boulder rabbi having lunch with the CU football coach at Orchid Pavilion, which was delicious. But that's neither here nor there. And that's where my leadership, that's where the leadership up here was. Having lunch with the CU football coach who promoted probably the biggest face of pro-Amendment 2. He used this football pulpit, which he had a giant following, to promote homosexuality as an abomination. And on a totally other, really personal aside, those years, I couldn't even cheer for my beloved Buffs on the football field because of this. That was a heartbreak, too. But anyways, the election came, and Amendment 2 passed. And it was devastating. It was devastating. We couldn't believe that this passed. We looked around and thought, we looked at our family and our friends and our community. Who voted against us? We looked at our neighbors. Did they vote against us? It was horrible, and we were grieving. As a community, we were grieving, and we were at a loss, and didn't know what to do, and certainly didn't know who to trust. But thank God, there are people who are blessed with courage and with guts and with chutzpah and amazing smarts to know what to do. And they got to work. And some years later, in 1996, Amendment 2 went to the Supreme Court and was overturned. And that was victory like unbelievable. Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was such immense joy. And immediately there was a rally called in Boulder. And I just remember being at this rally in downtown Boulder and there were just a bazillion people there, and we were hugging, and we were crying, and we were so excited. And I will never forget the one person I can remember being there with, which was the most important, was Rabbi Bronstein. And there she was at this rally, and I was crying because she was at this rally, because there's who we needed. There's who I needed as a Jew. That's what I needed. I needed someone to stand up. I needed that. And to have her there, that day, that was immense pride in every single part of me. That was immense pride. So that was that. And now here we are. And you know, I think back of a bunch of years ago when there my parents were crying about me. And I think my mom is probably tonight crying about something, but she's crying tears of joy. She's crying tears of joy because, look, she didn't get the orthodontist. But what did she get? She got to be here, and she got to see grandchildren named and b'nai mitzvahed and confirmed here in this space. And for that, she will always, always, and so will I, always, always have nothing but blessings to count. Good Shabbos, everyone.
Caroline, thank you for your humor, for your truth, for reminding us where we've missed and helping us to figure out where we're going. They never clap for me, by the way. I just want you to know that. I want to share. Wise guys. I want to share another prayer, and then we'll conclude. The prayer is again from this Sidur Shar Zahav, the congregation I mentioned earlier in San Francisco. The title of it is For LGBTQ People. Our people came out of Egypt a mixed multitude, the spray of dividing waters, sparkling diamonds all around them. We stood together at Sinai, all of us, future, present, past, amid the rumble of thunder and the crack of bright lightning, to enter into covenant with the one who loves us, in whose shining image we are all created over and over again. We have wandered bleak landscapes, built flimsy tents of skins and then houses of stone. We have planted orchards and vineyards, seen 2 temples rise and then go down in surging flames, forcing us into exile. We have loved and lost, grieved and danced, transgressed and celebrated, hidden, suffered, thrived. And we gather here this day in the community of our people, a mixed multitude, and we sing out, "Hear, O Israel, we stand together, all of us, descendants of the single first human created on the 6th day, and of our myriad parents down through the generations, too numerous to name. We stand together, link arms, and pray. We pray, blessed are you, God of the universe, who sanctifies us with the commandment to love ourselves and one another in all our varied ways, and blesses us with the diamond-bright radiance that still ripples out from your first spoken words of creation."